Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the show, another special edition episode. We like to do these fairly often if we can, right? A little break away from the normal programming. And help me out once again here, Mr. Scot Lade from the Prog Corner. And Chucky, what's going on, Scott?
Hey, Pete, thanks for having me back. I'm not keeping track or anything, but I believe this is my fourth appearance on the great Sea of Tranquility. And might I just say that, my subscriber numbers have just gone crazy in the last 2 months since I first appeared. So, thank you for the additional exposure to the Prog Corner. The channel is doing really, really well. And I thank you for that support. But today's going to be an awesome episode. I'm excited to talk about epic tracks, right?
That's right, epic tracks. And it's funny enough, I wish I would have coordinated you because I would have worn my Gentle Giant hat too, because I have the exact same one. And we could have worn hats by a band that doesn't do epic tracks, right?
Exactly. Thank you for understanding.
So a couple of weeks ago, I had an idea. We've done various shows on the channel about our favorite prog epics and least favorite, and some least favorite, or not prog epics. Well, yeah, on the Proxy, we did a show about favorite prog epics. Martin Popoff and I did a show about really long songs that we don't like, right? But I was thinking about what next I could do with Scott, and I was like, well, I've always wanted to do a kind of show based on like those must-hear prog epics.
Yeah.
And then on the same token, like, well, how about some prog epics that, like, for a newbie, maybe you shouldn't start with these, right? And not necessarily epics that we don't like or hate, but maybe ones that, like, these are okay, but I wouldn't go there first. So,
I think so. Yeah, I think the
right.
point kind of is maybe these are perhaps a little more challenging. If you haven't heard some of these we're probably going to be talking about, that implies you're probably kind of new to the genre. So perhaps some of these are even really, really good tracks, but beware the beginner on some of this stuff. So That's kind of how I'm approaching it tonight.
Yeah, so I asked Scott to pick out his 10 favorites or 10 must-hear prog epics. I picked out mine. We did not tell each other our lists.
No.
What's cool about doing a show like this is he and I haven't shared our picks. You guys at home get to pick your picks, right? And then we also did not share our 10 that we maybe stay away from for a little bit for various reasons, right? So with all that being said, I'm really psyched to see what your must are. I think we're gonna overlap a bit on our favorite 10, but we'll see.
And I being that the mantra of my channel is to bring them in with the classics and make sure that new prog is represented, I had to throw a couple entries that are on the newer side, modern prog, because that's just what we do over on the Prog Corner. So
exactly,
that was really my only criteria.
That's fine. And I think I mostly pick classics for my top 10, but I have
most of mine are too.
And I just realized, and I'll have you kick us off with your number 10. I just realized I forgot one of mine, so I'm gonna have to grab it from the closet. And so Scott will kick us off with his number 10. And again, we're ranking these sort of by preference, sort of by importance, I guess, however you want to do it. But it's the 10 that, if you're someone new to this whole style of music, these are the 10 you need to hear. Right.
Yeah. And with that in mind, number 10, and I've been really singing the praises of the contributions that women have had to prog rock. And I would be remiss if I didn't put a Renaissance track on here. And of course, the song of Scheherazade is like 23 minutes long. It's a beautiful, sweet Annie Haslam, who I know just the most incredible voice, male or female, whatever. And I absolutely got to hear the whole record's good. Side one is fantastic, but we're talking about the epics. This is a side-long epic that takes up side two, and it's peak Renaissance. It's just fantastic, and I would go right here.
I'm going right there too. That's my number 10.
Yeah,
I had to include it. I really wanted Renaissance. And one of the things I think that's really important to include Renaissance, because I think out of a lot of the bands we might talk about today really embrace like classical music in their style of prog rock. It's very different. It's very piano driven, very orchestral, very classical, and then you got that voice, that kind of operatic voice, like soaring over the top. And they're all these long songs. I mean, Scott, Scheherazade the longest one, but they have a lot of like,
they did. They had a lot of good long tracks. And you know, when I was a kid growing up, I never heard anything quite like Renaissance. Yeah, they kind of sort of, you know, you had the Rickenbacker bass going on, so my ears are pricking up, but they didn't sound nothing like Yes, man. I really dug what they were doing. They had the long tracks. They had Annie Haslam. They had my full attention. And I still love them to this day. A great, great, great band. And Annie Haslam, I know you've had her on the Sea of Tranquility before. So
she's a wonderful person. I've
incredible.
met her in person. She's been on the show a bunch of times, and she's just great. She's really, really great person. I
guess we have the same pick there.
So so that's we'll see how many we overlap. I think there's going to be more. I do want to mention, because I don't think we did, that the criteria we're using for epic tracks in this today is 15 minutes or more. All right, because I know, you know, if you start doing 10 and 12, then there's a million of them, right? But I think we're really going for, and I think you said it to me in our little private chat, we're going for the Chris Squire barometer.
Yes. Chris Squire was once asked what constitutes an epic track. He said 15 minutes or more, and I know he was gatekeeping for Awaken with that answer for sure, but the Chris Squire rules apply. 15 minutes or more. Exactly right.
Cool. All right, I'll have you kick us off with your number 9. I'll grab my other one that I was looking for here.
Yeah, very, very good. Well, you know, at number 9, I remember I bought this record sight unseen, seen it in a record store. Apparently it made it all the way to like number 16 on the Billboard charts, but Nectar's Remember the Future. I'd never heard of this band. This was the first time I'd ever encountered one of their pieces of vinyl. As a kid, you know, going through the record store, you know how you do as a kid, and this thing stopped me dead in my tracks. I had to buy. I loved it on first spin, and I've loved it to this day. It's just so awesome, man. You know, the band had a guy that just did lights. That was his job. He was a full-fledged member of the band. To this day.
Still to this day.
Come on, man. It's Nectar. It's Remember the Future. I love Tab in the Ocean. I love Recycled. But, you know, this is one song cut across 2 sides, more or less, I guess. It's just awesomeness. I love Nectar. And you might have a connection to Nectar too, right, Pete?
Yep, they're a really nice bunch of guys. And we just lost, you know, Ron not too long ago.
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
Ron, amazing. We lost Roy, you know, like 6-7 years ago. It's gone but not forgotten.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great. I completely forgot about that one, because that should have been on my list. But I'm glad you picked it.
Yeah, I love those guys. I love Nectar. They never got their due. They really did not.
No, you know, another band too, if you really listen and know all their albums, almost every album sounds completely different than the one that came before it.
Yeah.
I have to think that, you know, and then the first album is kind of space rocky, and then Tab in the Ocean is prog and hard rock, and that one is total prog, and then Sounds Like This is hard rock and blues and boogie.
It's just crazy, yeah.
Recycled is total prog again. It's all over the place, but really, really talented band. Really, really good.
Yeah, but that probably didn't help them any, because I think it confused people. You know, 100%. If you really dug one of their records and you were, you know, going through the record bin, and you'd see, you know, Sounds Like This didn't look anything like Recycled, and they didn't sound anything alike either. So
no.
And that's what I love about them. But
we love them now, so that's the important.
Yeah.
So. All right, so I'm going to go with something more recent, and more recent actually was quite a long time ago. At this point, the exact year, geez, what year was this? 1995. Dream Theater, Change of Seasons.
Yeah.
It's an EP, basically. So basically an EP, all one song. It's 23 minutes long, and then a bunch of cover tunes. But yeah, this is the first real epic that the band did. They did long songs before this, but this is still fairly early in their career. This was seen as a tremendous triumph. I love this song. What I love about it, gives you all the chops that make Dream Theater so good, but it's catchy. There's great choruses and hooks and harmonies all over the place here, and it's just so freaking dramatic. I mean, this is like one of Mike Portnoy's early triumphs, and I still love it to this day. I got the opportunity to see them live when they first started playing this, and it just blew my mind then. I still love listening to it now. They've got lots of epics since. Some of these bands we're going to talk about today have lots of epics. This is still probably my favorite. So Change of Seasons by Dream Theater, number 9.
That's an amazing call. I love that track.
Yeah.
You know, and very timely too. You know, we're all very excited about what the future holds for that band, given the news we got last week. So very cool. Probably my favorite Dream Theater song, definitely.
Oh, cool. There you go.
Yeah. I love it. So good call, good track. No complaints about that one. But I don't know. This one here that I'm gonna pick next. I didn't know really which category to put it in. I'm talking about A Plague of Lighthouse Keepers. What do you do about this band, man? This Vandergraaf Generator band that for years kind of eluded me. My little kid brain just didn't get it at all. And as I got older, I just kept hearing all these people telling me how great Peter Hamill and Vandergraaf Generator was. And sometime in the mid-90s, I think, finally it clicked and I got it. So this could definitely be considered one of the more difficult entries, but I believe it's mandatory listening. If you're interested in prog rock, and you really want to get a taste of all the different flavors that are out there, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't give this dark beauty an absolute try. And it's even got Robert Fripp on it. So what else do you want, man? Yeah. It's Vandergraaf Generators, Plague of Lighthouse Keepers, mandatory. It's amazing. I was wrong all those years, dead wrong.
There you go.
Yeah.
everything you said. Yeah, you almost like feel bad about launching this on someone who's new to all this, but you just, not all prog is happy and accessible. Well, most of it isn't, but this is, I think, out of all the bands that are in my top 10, this is probably the darkest, the hardest to get into initially, but definitely. Once you let Vandergraaf Generate into your life and you form some kind of relationship with Peter Hamill's vocals, and the fact that there's, other than Fripp's guitar, right? This is not guitar-oriented music. You got squonking sax and this great Hammond organ and these dark lyrics and the vocals. This is just different. But you said it. It's mandatory.
It really is, man. And David Jackson.
He's the MVP of the band, in my opinion.
That guy's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think that was what cracked it open for me, because like a lot of people, I had a little bit of trouble with Peter Hamill and his emotional vocal stylings. I love it now. So, I mean, I can kind of, make fun of myself about not understanding it, but it was David Jackson and his saxophone playing, just amazing. That was how I kind of really got into the band and started really understanding their greatness.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I still to this day, I know big Prog fans who just can't listen to these guys.
Yeah, I get it.
I get it. But at some point you have to give it a try. And like I said, I'm not saying that this is for everybody. So you're right. We maybe could have put this in the other list, but to me, I think this is like, I would definitely tell someone this: if you want to listen to prog epics, you got to listen to this.
You have to.
Yeah.
Just to see what it's all, covering all the bases. All right.
Back to you.
Okay. Well, this was the one that really got me going with epics. I tell the story of the cassette tape that my brother had. He brought it home. It had Fragile on one side. It had Tarkus on the other. And man, oh man, I was immediately drawn to Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I thought they were just amazing. And Tarkus just was so cool. I'd never heard anything like this before. I'd never heard, they were just incredible. Blew my mind. And Tarkus, I could have gone with the Carnival 9. I thought about it. I even thought about Pirates. I really dig that track off of Works Volume 1, but this is the one that really started me on my prog journey. Was this song right here? All the different components coming together with that Aquatarchus, the ridiculous artwork.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
This was perfect for a kid my age to get into, man. I was sold. So amazing. What a great band. You talk about epic. You talk about, prog rock being pompous and over the top and all that. You got to include Emerson, Lake and Palmer. You just have to.
Bombastic, you do.
That's it.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. You mentioned a couple tracks, and I didn't bring this up in the beginning either. I opted to only do one song per band for this list.
Yeah, one per artist. There you go. Me
too. Okay. Me too. I almost went back on that because I like this, because there's a couple bands, that's one of them, that have more than two, three. But I was like, but that's no fun, because then the whole list is like three bands, right? So
exactly.
Cool. All right. So my next one, what are we at? Number 7 is Caravan. 9 Feet Underground. Got to have some Canterbury on here, right?
Oh yeah.
Got to have some Canterbury. I mean, I think this track, however, what is it? 16, 17, 18 minutes. I forget. Hold on. I'll tell you in a second. I don't know. It doesn't say it here. Anyway, it's long. But what's so great about it, it's got that kind of quirky feel that Caravan always gives you. And it's got one of the most amazing extended distorted organ solos you'll ever hear in your life. And that, it's got to be here. I mean, this is a fun band. This is probably their best album, I think. Yeah. And it's just everything that you need to know about this whole thing called Canterbury Prog, right? Which is...
And, it is the intersection of what we're talking about, right? Long epic tracks in Canterbury. Not a whole bunch there, but man, 9 Feet Underground. That whole album is just incredible. Caravan's great. Yeah, I love them. And definitely their best album. I like Waterloo Lily. I like, there we go. That
artwork, right?
That artwork is just stunning. I wish I would have pulled my copy. But that is just some of the greatest artwork you'll ever see. The Canterbury scene really doesn't get enough credit. It really does. And I know a lot of people that are deep into prog and have never listened to any of the Canterbury bands. And I find that odd because I think National Health and Egg,
Hatfield
and North, they were doing some amazing things. And Caravan was right at the top of that list.
I think for some people, it's a little too jazzy.
Yeah,
too light and whimsical.
Whimsical, yeah.
But you're right. There's some really amazing musicianship and great songs, and a lot of the National Health, man. That stuff is just incredible, right?
It's sickening. Just such a great band. I
mean, 9 Feet Underground, mandatory. Early.
Good call. Good call. All right. I'm gonna go with something a little bit modern here. Couldn't help it. The Whirlwind, does it count? Is it one long track? Is it not? Boy, I know people have argued about this type of thing where you've got 12 songs that are kind of sort of interconnected, right? Does it count? Does it not count? I'm counting it. Why not? The band says it's one song, so it's one song. To me, 79 minutes of perfection's all I know. It's just incredible. I could make a case that maybe I prefer A Bridge Across Forever to this overall, but there's just a certain warmth in the production here. There's just something about the Whirlwind that just feels right and is so listenable. I can listen to this 79 minutes, just flies by like that, and I've heard it 100 times. It's crazy. Transatlantic, just amazing. Had to include them. They're the reason there is a Prog Corner. Is if there was no Transatlantic, I never would have gotten back into prog way back in 2001 or whatever. And so this is something that I think every prog fan needs to hear. Just over the top, ridiculously long, but beautiful, perfect, melodic, memorable, just insanely great with those four people just doing what they do best, and that's prog out, the Whirlwind.
Yeah, you go to progarchives.com and you look up Epic Prog, Transatlantic comes up. Basically. Yeah. That's all that's all they knew how to do is Epic, right? That's it, man.
And unabashedly so. I love there's just zero apologies about what they do. And that's what made them so much fun. And yeah, I am using the past tense, but hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully, 5-6 years down the road, the four of them find some time to get back together and do something again. Who knows?
We'll see. I mean, I think that's the reason I still believe that again, he didn't tell me this himself, but I think Mike had a kind of pact with Dream Theater going back a few months that he was going to go back into the band. Hence, Transatlantic done, Sons of Apollo done, Flying Colors, nothing really on the horizon there. Finishing up the long tour with Winery Dogs, Dream Theater here on in. We'll see. We'll see.
Morse Fest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
Tying up loose ends, right?
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, man. What you got?
All right, number 6. There were 2 from this band that I that I was choosing from, and ultimately I said, well, one is probably arguably a little closer to like the prog metal side of things. Still pretty damn proggy. The other one, though, there was no question. So I went with Cygnus X1 Book 2 Hemispheres from Rush Hemispheres. And Anthony, I know you're watching. Well, sorry, I didn't cover up the guy's butt here. I know Anthony in the prog seat covered up the naked butt here. So there we go. We'll play along a little bit. But yeah, I mean, what more can you say about Cygnus X1 Book 2 Hemispheres? This is just classic Rush from this time period. Arguably their most complex and progressive album, the album that basically got them saying, all right, we need to move on to something else. I can't do another fucking album like this again, right? So so it's so great. It's got multiple parts, and it just sets the tone for the entire album. It takes up all of side 1. Side 2, you got Circumstances of Treason, La Villa Strangiato. But man, it just the different movements in here, the crushing riffs, that the bass playing from Geddy, the drumming, I mean, the whole thing is so good. And what I really love about them this time period, it's like they've got these like kind of like really cool sci-fi lyrics from Neil. And like that's the vibe you get when you listen to this music.
Yeah.
Like watching like a sci-fi movie, like some like weird outer space type shit. And it's just so amazing. And I think for me, this album and that song gets better and better as the years go on, right? Even though Rush moved on to different things, how many of us go back to Hemispheres all the time because it was that damn good? So had to be on this list. 2112 was the other song, of course. I almost went with that. You can't go wrong with either one, but yeah. Rush is my pick.
It's kind of flip a coin for me between 2112 and Hemispheres as the greatest moment in Rush history. Even though I think A Farewell to Kings is their best album overall,
I love it. Yeah.
That whole period, that whole era, from 2112 to Signals to me is just pretty unimpeachable, just perfect.
I would agree.
What number are we on?
Number 5.
Number 5. All right, let's do it. I'm going to shock the world with number 5. I'm staying with a modern one, a band that's put out 12 albums. This guy's a weirdo. It's The Tangent, Andy Tillison's band. This is their 3rd album, A Place in the Queue, and it opens up with a 20-minute epic called In Earnest. And this thing here is so shockingly great. It tells the story of a World War II pilot who's, sitting alone at a bar, getting drunk or whatever, and the kids are, kind of ignoring him or whatever. And, they finally let him tell his story. And before you know it, 20 minutes is up and Andy Tillison is taking you to this world. You got tears rolling down your face about this dude in some bar in England. You have no idea. It's just, he's amazing. The song's amazing. It's the perfect example of what modern prog can be, where you learn from all the influences from Canterbury to Yes to ELP, all baked into this stuff. But it sounds totally modern. It doesn't sound like it's from the 70s whatsoever. The Tangent, highly recommended. And to me, they're mandatory. If you want to know about, what's going on with prog today, you got to include The Tangent in the conversation. And look at that artwork, man.
Oh, the artwork is great. That's one of their best albums.
Sick.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. One of the things I love about The Tangent so much is because they are a modern prog band, but he he's taken his influences from some different places.
Oh yeah.
To a lot of other bands that have been going for the last like 10, 15 years. And I love the fact that he embraces the Canterbury scene in his music,
Yeah.
because I find the Tangent music is very kind of quirky and lighthearted and jazzy, but it gives you all those things that you love about prog in general. So yeah,
And
that's
then
great.
and then he's not afraid to use influences like Crass and Chumbawamba and Jamiroquai. I mean, it's just, come on, dude. He's sick. I mean, he's just unbelievably talented. What a brain, what a genius. Yeah. He really emblemizes to me what modern prog should be all about. And yeah, the Canterbury stuff is really exciting in his music, because you don't really hear a whole lot of new bands doing that. Zop, Amoeba Split, there's a few people, but it's just not the modern symphonic sound that you normally hear, modern bands doing, and that's all right. But yeah, that's my number 5.
Cool, great choice. My number 5, going way back here. This I remember originally came out in 71, but the first time I ever heard it, it was, I think, my freshman year in college, 1984. And one of my suite mates was big into this band. And I had heard this band obviously before, but not this album or this song. And one night we were up really late, and you know what you do in college when you're up really late. You've been doing all sorts of stuff leading up to whatever. And me, young Pete, metalhead, hard rock guy, puts on this song, and I'm like, wow, that's like really wild, bizarre stuff. I'm kind of freaking out here because it's kind of creepy and all that. And I grew to love this song, and it's Echoes by Pink Floyd off the album Metal. Pete, the metalhead back in 1984, I don't know if I was prepared for 23 minutes of this brooding psychedelia from Pink Floyd, whatever you want to call it. But I think, man, the keyboard work, the effects, the sound effects they use, and all that's this is like perfection. And this day now, it's one of my favorite Pink Floyd songs of all time. It's just absolutely amazing. I think Gilmour is great on it. Richard Wright is so amazing on this song. It's just the whole band. It doesn't get much better than this when it comes to prog epics.
Agreed.
Number 5 on my list. So yeah.
So good. Yeah, it's hard to argue with that one. My introduction to Pink Floyd was Metal, and I just fell in love with it. I actually was disappointed with Dark Side of the Moon. I was that into Metal. I thought it was a step down. Okay, number four. Yeah, I got it right here, man. It's going to be an American entry. How about that? How about Todd Rundgren from the first Todd Rundgren's Utopia? And we're talking about the great and powerful The Icon. Come on, man. Yeah. That song's just mind-blowingly great. How they got that much music on one side of one side of vinyl back in those days.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Yeah, it doesn't sound great, but this is just Todd Rundgren at his absolute best. I just can't even believe that he wrote this stuff. It's just insane. To this day, it blows my mind. The Icon,
considering that he had never really done anything like that before, right?
No. I mean, that one side of a Wizard and True Star kind of had a little bit of that. Maybe Ra had little moments with Sing Ring and Hiroshima and that stuff. But nothing really came close to this. Bizarre, jazzy. I guess Todd had been listening to a lot of Mahavishnu Orchestra, and when this came out.
Yeah, it's
and it really shows. And I love Mahavishnu Orchestra. I love so why wouldn't I love this? And the Icon stands as one of the greatest epics of all time. I love it. It's complicated, it's weird, but yet it's really melodic and approachable. And it's Todd, so it's not going to turn anybody off. I mean, Todd is just such a likable front man that it kind of gives prog more of a sunny disposition kind of face for some people that want to, think that prog's all about, dragons and elves and whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Such a great song, The Icon. Yeah, I got that at number 4.
Cool. And I'll tell you what, because I looked at the length of it, as great as The Icon is, I love the Utopia theme, but it wasn't quite long enough to qualify.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
All right, my number
Utopia theme.
So good, right? So good. I think the Utopia theme is more of the fusion thing that was going on at the time, whereas the Icon, I think, brings about a lot of the influence and all that sort of thing. But yeah, amazing album. I've loved that album for so many years. It's so good. Number 4 has to be up here. 44 minutes, one long track, 2 sides of vinyl, thick as a brick by Jethro Tull. This is Tull dabbled in prog with Aqualung, and you could arguably say there's a little bit on Benefit, maybe a little bit on Stand Up, but this was the album where it all came about face, and John Evans or Hammond organ throughout the album is killer. Some great guitar work from Martin Barr. Ian is just amazing on this. Love the acoustic guitar stuff, the flute, the lyrics, the vocals, the whole thing, and it never gets boring. 44 minutes of just like bliss from start to finish. I love all the little movements, and they keep reprising themes and things like that. So good. They did it again with a Passion Play, and I really love Passion Play as well.
I do too.
I wouldn't set someone into Passion Play first, though. I would send them here before they do that, because Passion Play is a little bit different beast. It's not quite as warm and inviting as this album is, but I love it. And not everybody can do a 44-minute long track and keep your attention throughout the whole thing, but these guys certainly.
Well, you're preaching to the choir, Pete. It's my number 3. I almost pulled the audible, right, and pulled the Passion Play real quick, just so we could talk about it also, because I love it that much. But then take away some time, I had to talk about this incredible masterpiece. There's absolutely nothing I would change about this record. There's so few that is true about. Every note rings true. Every lyric is amazingly well written. Yeah, what, the 12-year-old boy or whatever he was supposed
Gerald
to be.
Bostock, yeah.
Gerald Bostock. It's a ridiculous story. It's an amazing story. It hooked me as a kid. For a minute, I thought, I was reading what it, and my older brother kind of explained it to me that, you're being suckered, man. And that just made me love it even more. And the last 90 seconds of this beast, probably the best 90 seconds of music I've ever heard in my life. When Dee Palmer's orchestration kicks in, and then it just rumbles all the way to the end, and you get the acoustic end and the the little snicker. Just just incredible. It's perfect. It's my number 3 epic of all time. Mandatory epic.
Mandatory for sure. Yeah. For sure. And my number 3, you talked about a few minutes ago. I'm going with Tarkus for number 3. Amazing. It's what do we love about Prog? The acrobatic musicianship, the virtuosity, and the bombast, right? And the whole I can't believe they actually attempted to do that, and they did it, and they did it.
Yeah.
Right. That is Tarkus, man. I mean, this is for a second studio album to come out with something like this, because they did the first album, which is very well-rounded, a lot of good tracks, shorter, longer pieces. Then they do the live album, Pictures and Exhibition, which is, not original material, but still amazing. And then they come out with this. I mean, it just, who does that on a second album? It's Keith Emerson.
Yeah.
Right? I think of Tarkus when I look at their entire repertoire. Granted, he is the main guy in the band for me. He always was. But you think of Tarkus, you think of all of that crazy shit that he's doing on Hammond organ throughout this album. And of course, yes, you got Carl Palmer's doing all sorts of crazy stuff underneath, and you got the great bass and whatnot and the vocals. But man, this is a Keith Emerson tour de force. And at the time, I don't really think we had anybody who was doing this kind of stuff.
Hey, he's Michael Jordan, man. Yeah. I mean, and there ain't nothing wrong with being, a couple of Scottie Pippins. And
right.
And I'm sorry, that's what Greg Lake, no shame in his game. He's one of the greatest. Carl Palmer, one of the greatest. There's no debate about who was the greatest. It's Keith Emerson, man. He's the MVP in any band he's going to be in. That guy was just ungodly talented. And Tarkus really was more his plaything. I guess Greg wasn't happy with it at all at first.
And, That's not surprising.
Well, I tried playing that bass line. That's what he was unhappy about, man. It's a beast. I mean, how do you write this stuff?
Yeah.
And Keith's like, here you go, Greg, play bass to this.
Good luck, right?
He wasn't happy with that at all. So
no, that's not surprising. But it's a great epic. And I agree with you. You take the whole Carnival 9, it's right up there. I'd argue that is a better composition, This is the mind-blowing one though, right?
Yeah.
This is the one that's got all the explosions and all the just nuclear Holocaust type stuff going out. It's just crazy, crazy stuff. So
Yeah,
that's
incredible, incredible. We're at number 2.
yeah, I think I know what our number 1 and 2 are going to be. If I think we'll probably be pretty in sync here, I'm guessing.
Well, I know how you feel about a certain long prog epic. So at the last minute, I decided I'd pull the old Audible, and I'm going with The Revealing Science of God. And there's a method to my madness here, my friend. More than just, being able to talk about 2 different Yes epics on the same episode. But, this one here is for a lot of people, the only one they like, or, maybe they like 1 and 4, but they hate sides 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Everybody likes side 1. So even people that hate this album like side 1. So that tells me how great it is. I love it. I think it is exactly what Steven Wilson called this album. It's hardcore Yes. And
Certainly
if
is.
we're talking about epics, you got to put Yes in the equation, obviously. And they have so many to choose from. Awaken, side 4, obviously Ritual, The Gates of Delirium. Endless Dream, Mind Drive. So yeah, you could pick a whole bunch, but to me, the one that just blew my mind and I actually go back to most often is The Revealing Science of God. I just love this thing. I love Alan White's introduction to the Yes fandom. Here you go, I'm Alan White. Here I go. And it's just awesome. You're not going, Bill Who, but you are going, yeah, this Alan guy's pretty good, man. And this record's insane. And it's the best thing Rick Wakeman ever did. And he didn't even like it.
He hates it. Hates it. Hates it.
So, yeah, that's my pick at number 2.
Cool. Here's my issue with Tales from Topographic Ocean, Scott. I want to love the whole thing. I don't. I like a lot of it quite a bit. I think my biggest issue with Topographic Oceans is I want to be able to sit through and listen to the whole damn thing in one sitting. And sometimes it's really hard for me to do that because I like to listen to albums from start to finish.
Right.
I feel like Topographic Oceans tests my patience quite a bit.
It is a slog.
There's brilliant stuff on there. Don't get me wrong. But it's one of those Yes albums that I appreciate. I love a lot of it, but I don't listen to it all that much. But every now and then I'm like, okay, today I'm going to listen to Topographic Oceans. And then I may not play for another 5 years. Yeah. That's been my relationship with it for like 40 years. So,
yeah, I really felt the exact same way about it for probably the first 4 or 5 years of my relationship with it. But I kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. Because, Yes was my favorite band. There's no way they had a bad album, right? So I kept plugging away. And, one day it just all kind of clicked and it just kind of made sense. Like, almost like a religious experience. You talk about, catching the spirit. That's totally what happened, man. Just like the John Anderson elves just came down and infected me, and then I got it. The scales fell from my eyes, and
kind of album.
I'm on the record as it is my favorite album of all time. So I'm super biased. I bring my biases with me. I can't help it.
There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, I know a lot of people who that's one of their favorite, if not their favorite Yes album, and that's totally cool, right? But it's a different album, right? It's a very very deep and just lyrically, like if you get it or you don't get it, whatever. And there's just so much going on. So I
can't listen to it every day. It's a once a month listen.
Okay, I don't know anybody who
start to finish once a month.
I tell you what, I could look at that cover every day though, because that's a work of genius. That's one of my favorite Roger Dean pieces of art right there. All right, my number 1 and 2 are neck and neck. I give 1. I generally give the slight nod to, but my number 2 could be my number 1 at any given point in time, and that is Supper's Ready from Genesis Foxtrot. I love Supper's Ready. What's amazing to me, and even my number 1 too, is that they basically were like all these different songs that they came up with in the studio that they kind of patched together, and boom, here you have this big epic that makes total sense.
Yeah.
This parts of Supper's Ready that to me are like absolute genius. You got some great work from Hackett. Peter Gabriel is off the charts great on Supper's Ready, but it's Mr. Banks and his keyboards just haunting and just amazing. Phil is great on here too. Rutherford's great. It's dramatic, it's whimsical. I like that you get all these different feels from section to section, which I think is really good. And that whole closing part of it is just amazing. Like the last 5-10 minutes of it is just so good. There have been times in my life where Supper's Ready is my favorite epic. Today I'm going to go with another one by a hair, but I love this song, always have, and it's because of it that this is my favorite Genesis album, even though I love the rest of it too. But yeah. So
well, I think you know where I'm going with my number one, Pete. And I first got Genesis live. That was my introduction to Genesis, and I kept hearing about this sidelong epic. So when I finally got my hands on Foxtrot, I was ready, and I was not disappointed. You mentioned the musicianship on here. Even old Tony Banks says that that last section, that 666 section, is perhaps the best moment in Genesis history. A lot for him to say.
Yeah.
But for me, listening to Phil's drumming all the way through that Apocalypse and 9/8 section, where he's doing like subcontext and mini motifs on the drums, like, what is he doing here? It's insane how good Phil Collins was in 1972. Just a man possessed. And then the control of tone that Steve Hackett had over his guitar. And, let's not forget Michael Rutherford wrote that riff. He's no slouch either. And then Peter Gabriel singing his lungs out. This is just, to me, if you're talking about prog epics, it's Supper's Ready. It's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. It really is. Yeah. I just adore it. So
yeah, like I said, it's many times it's my number one. And ironically, the first time I ever heard Supper's Ready was on Seconds Out.
Yeah,
I actually bought Seconds Out before I bought Foxtrot. So I initially fell in love with this song with Phil singing it. But then I heard Peter singing it, and I was like, oh, because their voices are different. The similarities, they're different. And then I got totally used to Peter, and I'm like, I just love the song. I can live with either one of them singing.
Oh yeah, they're both great. But yeah, I was the opposite. When Seconds Out came out, it took me a minute getting used to Phil singing Supper's Ready. But I love both versions equally. Actually, I think it's amazing. Chester Thompson's no bum.
No, he is not. Not at all. Great choice for that band.
Yeah,
I just wish. Well, it's a story for another day. I always wish that Daryl Sturmer and Chester Thompson got to actually record with them in the studio, but
that would have been amazing.
Yeah, but what are you gonna do?
Missed opportunity.
No surprise. Close to the Edge is my number one. It's amazing. It's dramatic. It's haunting. It's powerful. It's just some jaw-dropping musicianship throughout the whole thing. To me, it's the pinnacle of Steve Howe and Rick Wakeman's work together. And I think, when you really think about it, it's like, God, Bill Bruford's last hurrah with the band, and how after this album was done, he's kind of like, all right, I think I'm kind of done with this. I need to move on to something else, right? And I'm just like, woo. You would think that someone like him would be so like energized by this album, but then he went to go join King Crimson and went on to even more zaniness. So I get it. But
Bruford's a different dude, man. He thought that was it. His exact words were, that was the cookie. I guess in British, that means, that's it. You're not going to top it. There's nothing that we're going to do that's ever going to be as good as this. So why try? And he said he was tired of the band arguing over whether it's an F or an F sharp, or whether you're going to do 2 measures in 7 or 3 measures in 7, then go back to 8. He was tired of all that, man. And who wouldn't really be tired of, working with Chris Squire's schedule? I mean, even back in 72, he was notorious for being late for everything. That wasn't the kind of working conditions Bill Bruford wanted to be in. He'd reached the summit, and he was ready for a new challenge. And you can argue he made the right decision, because
it
would have been as good with Bill Bruford. I think it needed Alan. I think it needed a different approach. it might have been just a little too lightweight. You needed a pounder for some of that material. And that certainly was true for later on with Relayer. Yeah, Bill Bruford, man.
I don't think Bill would have liked doing Topographic Oceans one bit.
No, he would not have.
But again, I think Close to the Edge, again, another one of those songs, kind of like Supper's Ready, that basically they pieced together all these different pieces that they were working on in the studio that weren't necessarily going to be part of a big epic. And it's amazing when you read up on like what went on in the studio with these albums. And then you listen to the final product and you're like, wow, it sounds like that's exactly how it was always.
Exactly.
Right. But so many great sections in here, and I love Wakeman's playing on this track, and it's so good. And Anderson is just amazing on here as well, and on this whole album. So yeah, that's it's, to me, it's the greatest prog album of all time, and that is the greatest prog epic.
I mean, I love it so much that whenever I see a new reaction video, I see a new reactor reacting too Close to the Edge, I'll probably watch all 18 minutes of it. I'm that kind of fool. I will. I love it. I love seeing the reaction.
And you're probably secretly envious because you're like, I would love to be able to go back in time and experience.
Exactly. Yeah. All that crazy stuff, the early, who opens a song with a 3-minute guitar solo and then you have the little breaks. I mean, just seeing these reactors' faces, it's awesome. Such an amazing track. Yeah, good call. Close to the Edge.
Yeah. So there we have our 10 must-hears. So we overlapped on a few. You want to rattle off your honorable mentions real quick before
I got a couple honorable mentions. There's one right off the bat. I wanted to keep it prog, but how about Iron Maiden's great epic off of Book of Souls? What is this? 18 Empire of the Clouds. I think it's like 18 and a half minutes long. It's definitely their longest song. Man, do I love this track, but is it prog? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. I don't care. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about some kind of Italian prog. And off of Banco del Maturo's third album, Io sono nato libero, is the song Canto nomade por un prisionere politico. Just amazing stuff. It's really hard to say, but it's really great. And let's talk about the Neil Morse Band. Their latest Innocence and Danger was so cool because the first album was shorter tracks and they put all the two epics on the back end, and disc 2, amazing. I'm going with Beyond the Years, 31 minutes of absolute prog bliss. And let's do a little bit of Wobbler, their latest Dwellers from the Deep, Mary Macabre. I was going to do From Silence to Somewhere, but that album's getting a lot of roses on the internet. People are talking about it left and right. Nobody's really talking about Dwellers of the Deep like this thing was bad or something. Come on, man. This record's amazing. Wobbler's amazing. Mandatory that you become familiar with Wobbler. I know you like them, Pete. I love how could you not? What's not to like about this band? So
every album to me is like a 5 out of 5 star. I mean, every one. Yeah. It's just,
Those are just a couple honorable mentions I just want to throw out there. I could go on and on. I pulled like 70 albums, man.
I had to stop myself. I know it was getting ridiculous. I know. I'll rattle off a couple here too. So this one arguably is prog or not, but it's the title track to Uriah Heep Salisbury. All 16 minutes and change of it. Awesome. Called Utopia. I mean, there's a lot of Spock's beer to choose. How about The Light? How about The Water? Right, 2 epics from the first album. You also got The Great Nothing, 27 minutes and change from Spock's Beard. Stardust We Are by the Flower Kings.
Yes.
Amazing. How about Eruption from Focus from Moving Waves?
I
mentioned The Gates of Delirium by Yes. We also mentioned Awaken by Yes. I got them both here.
Yeah, had to.
How about Baker Street Muse from Jethro Tull?
Very good.
Awesome. And then, of course, 2112. And I don't think Grob Schnitt, Rock Pommel's Land is another one. Pull that. And Ashra Temple Ambos from their first album also is amazing. So that's
so much. I could have mentioned Frost Milliontown. Such a big fan of that band. talk about a great record with John Jowett and Andy Edwards. What a rhythm section.
Oh yeah, those two guys are great. Yeah, for sure.
John Mitchell and Jem,
Yep.
just an incredible band. Yeah, I could go on. Like I said, I pulled like 70 albums on the good. It was harder to come up with ones that, you know, we were a little less enamored with. So
yeah. So just to preface that part of the show. So these are epics that we wouldn't recommend you start off with. And it doesn't mean that we necessarily dislike any of these.
That's right. That's right. Control yourself in the comments.
Yeah, but these are just like these are a little more difficult. They maybe don't represent the bands at their best or what they normally do. And quite frankly, they're harder to get into. They're maybe not as slam dunk. These are the ones you need to check out. These are ones that like, well, I would wait a little bit if you're investigating prog for the first time, because these are not the easiest first listens on any of these bands.
Right.
So I'll have and I didn't put mine in any order. I just kind of did them. So Scott.
Yeah, I kind of did, but it's not in any chronological or what I like or hate the most. I just did it in a way that told a cool story arc or whatever. So you got to start out with a bang, and you got to start out with Love Beach and the incredibly bad epic on this, Memoirs of an Officer and a Gentleman. No, just no. I know you're tempted to buy it because of that awesome album cover.
Oh, yeah.
The boys,
BJ's right there. There we go.
Hanging out in Nassau, recording at Compass Point. And I know you really think this is a great starting point for the band. I'm here to tell you it's probably not the best starting point. In fact, I just don't like it. I just don't.
I would agree. Yeah, it's not a very good album. There's a couple good moments, but for the most part, it's pretty tame.
I like Canario, and they didn't write it, so that's
exactly. Yeah, it's the best thing on the album. Yeah. All right, for me, this is kind of borderline prog, but enough people classify what this dude does as it's progressive music. But there's a lot of other things going on. This is out of my whole list. This is the one that I genuinely do not like, and that's Billy the Mountain from Frank Zappa from Just Another Band from L.A.
Billy the Mountain.
You know, it's like 25 minutes long. I don't know, folks. Sometimes humor doesn't belong in music, in my opinion. For me, Flo and Eddie just absolutely killed this song for me. And it's just like, when I listen to Frank Zappa's music, I love to hear all the kind of wild musical stuff that's going on. And Flo and Eddie doing their back and forth. It's just, and I don't find the story funny. I know a lot of people love Billy the Mountain. People say, well, Pete, you got to get stoned and enjoy Billy the Mountain. Well, I don't do that sort of thing. So for me, Billy the Mountain has always gone right over my head. And I find so many more Frank Zappa lengthy tunes and music in general way more interesting than Billy the Mountain. So I never got it. I still don't.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I ranked the Zappa albums not long ago on my channel, and only one of the Flo and Eddie era records made the list, and that was that Chunga's Revenge, which they didn't have a huge role in.
No, they really didn't.
Not my favorite time in the history of Zappa, so I understand that. I kind of like that stuff sometimes, but yeah, not great. Now, this one I'm preparing for a little bit of hate on this one, and I get it, but you can save your hate mail and give it to Robert Fripp, because for years even he hated this thing. He recently came around, but for years he was on the record as saying that this entire album was unlistenable, and for years I agreed with him, man. But I, like Robert Fripp, have actually kind of come around. To me, as a kid, the only thing I liked was when John Anderson was singing at the beginning of the Lizard Suite, which is what we're talking about here. That takes up all the side two. And he sings on that Prince Lamont, whatever the name of that track is. I forget. Prince Rupert Awakes. There you go. I'm an idiot. This is a hard slog, man. I don't recommend this to people that are new to the genre. It just might be a little bit too head scratching. What do you think about Lizard, man?
That's my next choice as well. Yeah, I mean, it has its moments, and I'm a jazz fan, so I appreciate what it is, but I would not recommend folks new to King Crimson or lengthy tracks to start with Lizard, because it's really laid back and kind of pretty, I don't know if I like Pretty King Crimson. I like Dangerous King Crimson. And it's got horns and piano, and then you got John Anderson crooning about. Although the second half of it picks up the bombast a little bit, but then it gets kind of free jazzy, and it's not really what you'd expect from King Crimson. I could recommend way more tunes than this. Like you, I've come on board with this album in recent years, where this used to be one of my least favorite King Crimson. So I appreciate where they were at here, but I still don't think it's a really great epic. And I think I forget, Scott, was it 20 some odd minutes long?
Yeah.
Could have cut it in half easily. I think would have been better off. So, and that's going to be a theme with some of my choices.
Oh, yeah.
Trim them down, better song. So,
no doubt.
Back to you.
All right, where are we at?
I guess
that was your pick, right? So,
yeah.
Okay. Well,
number 8, I guess.
There are times in life where, buyer beware, and all is not as it seems. If you didn't know any better, you'd look at this thing and see something called The Solution, and see it's 23 minutes long, and it's by Yes, and you're thinking, okay, because that Keys to Ascension stuff was pretty good. Okay, let's check this out, man. And you get 20 minutes of ocean sounds or whatever. I mean, okay. Maybe this isn't exactly what we were talking about here, Pete, but I just had to include The Solution by Yes off of the putrid Open Your Eyes. Just not a good album, and just a terrible so-called epic. They should be ashamed. I mean, I know it was the CD era, and you had 80 minutes to fill, so you felt like you
doesn't mean you should,
fill the space.
Right? Doesn't mean you should.
No.
I really don't like that album at all. It's my least favorite Yes album. All right, let's stick with Yes. Why don't we? Yes, the title track to Fly From Here. Okay. All right, before everybody starts jumping all down my throat, here's why I picked this. Long does not necessarily mean good. That being said, Fly From Here, the title track, is easily their best epic in ages. There's a lot of good on here, but unfortunately, it has long stretches where there's just not much going on. I give them credit for wanting to do something of this magnitude again, and I can appreciate it for that. But again, did it need to be 20 some odd minutes long? Yeah. I think Fly From Here would work much better, maybe a tight 13 to 15 minutes, and all of a sudden you have an amazing track that people will remember years from now. Yes, fans will remember years from now. Otherwise, I think most people think of this album, it's like, oh, that's the album where Yes seemed to try a little harder. It's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Pretty good isn't great. I think Fly From Here would be a better epic, shorter, so doesn't work 100%.
Yeah, I got mixed feelings about Fly From Here. When the album was first announced, I remembered that track was released during the drama era, and I had a vague recollection of it. So I went back and re-listened to it, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. Maybe they're going to do something like new and fresh and different, and it kind of really didn't go there for me. So that's a good call. It's all right. And that's not, and I guess that's all you can get from 21st century Yes. And if it's okay, I guess I'm all right with it. But
it's definitely one of the better epics they've done in more recent years, but that's not really saying a lot. So if I were to recommend any Yes epics, I could probably pick 5 or more easily that person should listen to before that one.
Well, I'm going to go with my next pick for the dead center of the classic era with a bigger than life character. I don't like this. I don't like it. I never have. And don't get me wrong, Six Wives of the Henry VIII is like one of the greatest albums of all time. And I really, really do like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And I love No Earthly Connection. And I love all that stuff, man. I'm a Rick Wakeman fan.
It's not that album's not aging well, is it? That album is not aging well for me.
No, too much talking, a lot of orchestra. It's just not a lot of there. And I'm gonna probably take some heat because I know a lot of people love this album. I grew up with this album, man. I think we got it the day it came out in my house. But It never did it for me. And I would not have anybody start there with with longer songs to, get you excited about what a prog epic really can be. It just doesn't work for me, and it never did. So I'm biased against it.
I hear you. I agree. And I think for all those people that say prog rock is pompous and overblown, there you go, right there.
I'll put it on ice. It'll make it even better.
Yeah, maybe. All right. I love space rock. I love psychedelic music, and I really like this band a lot. However, Porcupine Tree's Voyage 34, a long concept piece about a guy on an LSD trip.
Yeah.
And it's like, God, how long is this whole thing, man? This is like the complete trip. Either way, whether it's the complete trip or the shorter trip, it's too damn long, over 30 minutes long of just crazy noodling and whatnot. Maybe I need some LSD too as well. I don't know. I love Steven Wilson. I like.
I was wondering.
Sky Moves Sideways, and I like a lot of that stuff. But this, to me, I remember when I first bought this, I was all excited because I love this band, and I'm like, even this is just a little bit too much for me. Yeah. So again,
perhaps a bridge too far.
Yeah, a little bit too far. I think if you're in the right frame of mind, this is cool in moderation, but to take all this in at once, a little bit too much.
Yeah, it's all right. I think I listened to it twice.
And what does that? What does that tell you?
If you want to listen to Porcupine Tree, I'll probably find something else to watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Or listen to, maybe even listen to some hippie death cult or something, man. Hey. I got one that's we talked about this artist being the master of the long form. And when this thing came out, I was really excited because I'm like, okay, another sidelong epic from Todd Rundgren. Wow. What is this treatise on cosmic fire or whatever it is on side 2? What even is this thing? It's not, is this a song? Is this like some kind of cosmic meditation thing? I don't understand this. I never have. And to be honest, I didn't go back in preparation for this episode and listen to it again. I think I listened to it enough back then to know I don't like this. And I think Todd was like, I think he was making fun with, with this thing. I think he was just like pulling a fast one. Or what do the Brits say? Taking the piss. Seriously. Cool artwork though.
I think Todd was listening to this album and doing some acid when he recorded that album.
Yeah, I think so. Not good.
There's parts of that album that I like, but I've never gotten into that big long track.
Side 1's not bad, but side 2 is just abysmal.
Yeah, it's just, that's not a fun listen.
Yeah, not a good place to start. Start with the icon.
Exactly.
Don't start there, kids.
All right. So I like this album. I kind of dig this track, but I wouldn't recommend this to anybody who's venturing into the world of Pink Floyd. That's Atom Heart Mother. It's just weird, and a little more weird. In the right frame of mind, I guess this is fun. I like the orchestral parts, but man, it just meanders into all this weird psychedelic stuff. And there are times where like minutes go by and hardly anything's happening. This is Pink Floyd being psychedelic because they can. And I know a lot of people hail the title track as a work of genius. I wouldn't go that far. It's got its moments. Again, it's just so long. I think it could have been tightened up a little bit.
Yeah.
There's good ideas here, but it's weird. This whole album is just bizarre and weird, but that's what Pink Floyd is all about. But like, if I were going to recommend epic length Pink Floyd stuff, stick with Echoes first. Don't go here first. There's other places you can go as well. But
I'm with you on Atom Heart Mother. We've got a colleague on YouTube, 365 Days of Prog. She has a great channel over there. We're praying for you over in Israel. That's her favorite Pink Floyd album. So you just, you never know. You never know.
You never know.
But we're talking about prog epics. Like I like Atom Heart Mother. Just wouldn't start there. Just like this one, I actually like this track or tracks. Sweet, or I don't know what you want to call it, but whatever's going on side 2 of Caress of Steel. I like it, but it's not where I would start if I was trying to point somebody in the direction of an epic track and how you do it gracefully. These guys hadn't figured it out yet.
Not yet.
It took them one more. I love the nasient sound. I love the sound of a band figuring it out. Caress of Steel is a cool record, but they hadn't figured it out yet. And yeah, they did on the next one for sure.
Oh yeah.
But this is a little half baked. A lot of great ideas, but even Getty's like, man, I wish we could have a stab at Caress of Steel again. And I wish they would have re-recorded this, maybe expanded on some of the ideas, maybe work on it just a little bit, because there's a masterpiece busting out of here. It's just not there yet.
There's parts of the Necromancer and the Fountain of Lameth that are amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
like it's kind of jammy, especially the Necromancer. There's amazing parts in there. I really love the Necromancer a lot, but it could have been tightened up a little bit and maybe fleshed out a little bit more. Yeah, I totally dig it. But I totally
too, yeah. It's
again,
a cool record.
It is a really cool record. And again, I think that the point of what we're trying to get here is that if you're going to explore epics from any of these bands, don't go there first.
Yeah, not that one.
When you got Cygnus and you got 2112 and other tracks, don't go to Fountain of Lameth or the Necromancer first, because that's not really give you where Rush actually wound up going.
Yeah.
Let's see. What am I going to choose next? Let's go with this one. So this is a band I really like a lot, and it's from an album it's a good album. And the song actually is not terrible at all. But again, I think they have other tracks that I would steer people towards first. And it's Marillion, it's Ocean Cloud, the song from Marbles, which is the last track on disc 1 here. It's just under 18 minutes long. It's kind of, Scott, I don't know, it's kind of sleepy.
Yeah.
It's another one of those songs that I think you trim it down to like 8-9 minutes and you have a really good song here. It's like there are parts that are really good. It'll like get going in one way and then it'll kind of stop and it'll put you to sleep for a few minutes and then they'll come back in and you got these great vocals, then these like, ambient synths for a little while. I don't know. I don't dislike it. And I think Hogarth's vocals are really good on here, but I think overall the song kind of loses me at times. And that's, an epic track has to keep your attention throughout the whole thing. And I think there's a good 7 or 8 minute long song in here, a really good 7 or 8 minute long song. Otherwise, I find Ocean Cloud a little spotty, a little average. It's good. I like it. But I think like the first track on the album, The Invisible Man, which is a few minutes, 4 minutes shorter, works better for me. So,
yeah, I mean, some bands are just more conducive towards the long form epic. Marillion is one of those bands that they just are better suited for, in my opinion, for shorter song lengths. And even their quasi epics that they've been doing now, they break up into subsections. I think that kind of works for them. It keeps their brain a little more siloed to the task at hand, and I think they work better there. And I may have a Marillion track coming up on my list.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, their music is just at times a little too atmospheric for these 15-20 minute songs.
Exactly.
I'm not saying they're bad, but it's
and I love Marillion, so
I do too. I do too.
Here's one. You mentioned this band in your honorable mentions, and you mentioned a couple amazing tracks. Spock's Beard, Neil Morris, just such an incredible writer of epics, almost spotless in his epic writing, right? Whether it's with his solo work or the Neil Morris Band or Transatlantic or Flying Colors. And then you get the healing colors of sound off of this thing, Day for Night. This is a terrible song. It's awful. These are like rejects that Neil wrote when he was like 11 years old and he decided to stitch together into an epic. It's, even the great Neil Morris has a bad day. And some of the shorter tracks on this album are actually good. The epic is not good, and it's just showing that even Neil Morris is human. The healing colors of sound. A bad day at the office for Neil Morris and Spock's Beard. A bad epic.
I will say I love that title track though. Really.
Oh yeah, there's a couple real good songs on that album.
Oh yeah,
they were going for a different sound on that album for sure.
Yeah, but they were trying to be a little more accessible, and I think it kind of works.
Stick with the Great Nothing, or if you want a Spock's Beard epic, you don't need to go there.
All right, we already talked about this band, and they do epics, and they do them pretty well. but sometimes two gargantuan epics on one album is a little too much. Kaleidoscope from Transatlantic, I like it. It's a little too long for me. You know, the problem with Transatlantic is you can go and recommend 3 or 4 of their big epics because they have so many of them, because that's really all they do. But to kind of consume all of this epic material from them is a lot.
It can be.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, the playing is great. The chemistry is here. The vocals are so good. I mean, there's really nothing to dislike on Kaleidoscope. I'm just saying that for me, I almost would have rathered that this song was broken up into 3 or 4 killer songs instead of one long half-hour track that kind of loses my attention from time.
Well, and that last transition just does not work. You can't fade down and have the Hammond organ swoosh bring you into another part of the song. It doesn't work. I love Transatlantic. I love all 5 albums, but if I had to pick, you know, which one was the worst of the 5, that's an easy pick. It's Kaleidoscope, and the title track is a letdown. I think Into the Blue was way better.
Yeah, that's better.
And I love that short track that was on that album, whatever that was called. But you know, on a similar,
Beyond the Sun
yeah, real good. But you know, the whole idea that maybe sometimes too much is too much, right? Yeah. And my next pick falls right in line with that. I absolutely adored the original version of The Truth Will Set You Free. And I was so excited when a couple years ago, this is before they had the new reissue campaign, they put this out on vinyl, and I was psyched. And there's a new mix, 2017 mix, and it's terrible. I don't like it at all. And then to make matters worse, I don't like the second epic on here at all. The Devil's Playground is like, just, it doesn't go anywhere. I don't love it. So even the great Roy Nostalt can put out a clunker every now and then. But yeah, I'm mainly hating on the remixed version, because the original 30-minute version of The Truth Will Set You Free is one of the greatest epics I've ever heard in my life. And he just completely botches it. He just does. It's just not good.
Terrible. Yeah, because that original rival Stardust We Are as...
Yeah, those are their 2 best epics, by far. Yeah.
So we're going to stick on the Flower Kings now, because my issue with the Flower Kings, and I've been following them since they first started way back when, is that sometimes you hit a wall. Just too many epics. Is too many epics. Love Is the Only Answer from Sum of All Evil. I've just gotten burnt out on their epics. I want shorter songs from them. That's kind of what when this album first came out, and this was 2007, so still fairly early on in their career, right? I was all epicked out from them. There's lots of great playing, but it's just overkill for me. And yeah.
Well, and that song also is the owner of some of the worst lyrics I've ever read. And I love Roy Nostalt, and I love his bizarre use of English sometimes. But when he's singing about a cosmic Christmas tree, I'm kind of checked out, which is too bad, because I actually love that album. I really, really do. I love all the rest of those tracks on there, One More Time, and you know, some of those later songs. The shorter ones were great too. But yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. It was almost too much, and they kind of did get away from the epics. This new version of the Flower Kings, these last 4 albums really haven't had a single song qualify, actually, since Banks of Eden. Numbers is the last true epic the Flower Kings have done. So
sadly, though, even though they've done that on the last couple of albums, I'm finding the material less memorable, though.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Maybe, they've been a busy band throughout their whole career. And I think, are we all getting to the point of like Flower King, like overkill and saturation? Maybe. I don't know.
I would say that they put out 4 albums without Thomas Bodine in the band, and with Mirko de Mayo on the drum set, and that lineup. And I've actually liked 1 out of those 4 a great deal. I really did like By Royal Decree. But the other 3 were kind of interchangeable for me. They were nice.
Yeah, they're very interchangeable.
They're good.
Yeah.
Now here's one that I know all the kiddies are gonna hate. Is it my turn?
Yep.
I thought so. I get so excited. You know how I am. I can't remember what's going on. But yeah, you guys are gonna hate me. In Marillion land. I promised I was gonna give you Marillion, and they don't have that many to choose from. So it's Grendel, man. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I love Marillion. I love Fish. I love those first 4 albums. And everybody loves this song, man. They worship this song. I mean, they still call out for this song when Fish is. It's insane. I don't. That's just me, perhaps, but I don't. It doesn't go anywhere. It's like the same chord progression over and over for however long it is. 17 minutes and 40 seconds of the same chord progression. I just don't get it, and I'm sorry, but yeah, that's my number 2.
I hear it. I think that's kind of a love it or hate it with most people.
So. I think so. Yeah. It must be, because I don't get it. Yeah.
All right. I couldn't find my CD for this one, and people are going to hate me for this one, but I just never really got it. Mike Oldfield, Tubular Bells.
Oh,
people love this album. Everybody loves this album. I don't hate this album. I find it rambles. It's just, it sounds like a lot of vastly different parts, all kind of pieced and edited together. I love parts of it. Other parts of it just bore the shit out of me. It's long. The Exorcist is my favorite movie of all time, so I love the kind of beginning. But then it's like, don't go away, and you don't come back. I'm like, that's all you.
Never gonna see you again. Bye bye.
That's it. Yeah. So the rest of it, there's good stuff on here, but it sounds to me like a big jumbled mess, and people love it. They worship it. I'm happy if you do. To me, Tubular Bells just doesn't do a hell of a lot for me. Sorry, guys.
This is the good thing about not, sharing lists, right? Because I love Tubular Bells. I think it's incredible. I would point people in that direction as a nice entry point to, early 70s instrumental weird music. I adore it. I love his 3rd album, Omadon, so much. I love his 4th album, Incantations. I love Amarok. I love that return to Omadon that he did a few years ago. Notice I skipped over the 2nd album. Hergest Ridge, just everything you were saying about Tubular Bells, I apply to this one. This one puts me to sleep. There's nothing I can, sink my teeth into, or, that gets under your skin. No earworms here, buddy. This is just like 40 minutes of, what? And I understand he was going through, whatever poor Mikey was going through. Poor baby, he was popular and a millionaire. Dude, that's what he'd been trying to do for 8 years before Tubular Bells came out. So don't play the, the tortured victim with me. But Hergest Ridge, at least he righted the ship with Omadon, right? But this one here, just, no. That's a no. I don't get her. I don't get Hergest Ridge. So that's my number 1. Stay away from it. Go with Tubular Bells. Go with Omadon. Go with Incantations, where you got 4 sidelong tracks. Just awesome. Amarok, just awesome. But yeah, it's funny how we see the same artist in different ways, Pete.
Yeah, I just never really got his music. I don't know what it is. You can't like everything, right?
Nah.
But I get it. Loads of people love him, and that's totally cool. I'm a weirdo, I guess. What can I tell you? Yeah. All right. So I talked about this band in the first 10. I'm going to talk about them here in the bottom 10. Again, I don't really dislike this song. I just think that as an epic track, they have much better. And usually a good measuring point for a great song is when you go see them play it live and you enjoy it more. And I remember the couple times I've seen them play this live, I'm kind of like, maybe I could take that bathroom break right about now. And that's Octavarium by Dream Theater. This one's a marathon, folks. Big, long song. What is it, 24 minutes exactly? Not all of it's an easy ride. I mean, I think for me, it's like it takes like 10 minutes before the song even really gets going. It's just kind of like peters and putters along for 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden the melodies kick in. Then James is singing up a storm, sounding good. Then the meat happens around the halfway point. Petrucci's ripping. You got Rudis doing some really cool stuff. And all of a sudden, the whole second half of the song is like, all right, that's what I came to hear. So why did it need to be 24 minutes long?
Yeah.
So make it a 12-minute kick-ass song rather than a 24-minute, okay, you're losing me, guys. When are you going to get to the boiling point here, right? And that's, I think, a lot of the tracks that I picked for the bottom 10 kind of do that to me. They lose. Yeah. I think, epic songs have to keep your attention focused throughout the whole thing. And, it's one thing when you're like, you can't hold my attention at the beginning of the song. If you're already losing me 10 minutes in, well,
that's a big ask, right? I mean, it's one thing if well, I'm bored at the 5-minute mark, but there's only 2 minutes left. I'm okay. No, there's what? 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, that's not good.
Not gonna happen, man. No. And there's plenty of other epic tracks out there that I wouldn't point to a newbie, just for various reasons. I got an honorable mention, an album I love, but I would never recommend to somebody new in the genre, and that's Soft Machine Third. What a great record.
I love it. Yeah.
4 epics, man. People give Yes a hard time. Well, it meanders a bit.
Listen to that. Yeah, I love Thirds, but I absolutely
they worship this, right? They worship this, but Tails meanders a bit. Well, whatever. This album is crazy. It's great, but I wouldn't have a newbie listen to this. There's no way. The production's weird. They're an acquired taste, but that's another one I'd probably not point to a newbie of the prog genre at all. Definitely a band that takes a little bit more of your attention.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely not Bundles, right? So could you imagine the only Soft Machine you heard is Bundles, and then you play that, you're like, oh, is this the same band? What is this noise?
Yeah,
right. Because it is noisy and caustic and dissonant, and just it's like, I don't even know what you call it. It's not Canterbury, it's not jazz, but it's like weird free jazz meets something. I don't know what it is, but yeah. It's a frightening album, but I dig it.
It is. It's awesome stuff. And maybe I got another one here. The long tracks on it. You could point to a number of Krautrock acts that had longer tracks. Probably not for the uninitiated. I remember the first time I heard Can, it's like, nope, that's not for me. It took me a long time, probably like 10 years, to wrap my head around them and some of the other Krautrock bands. Now I love the Noise and the Faust of the world, and I'm on Dual Twos, but not something I'd recommend to somebody new to the genre.
I'm still on the fence with Can. I like the instrumental later version of Can. I like when they have no vocals. I really like the music a lot. I still have an issue. I'm trying very hard to get into that album because that's regarded by many as their classic, but man, the vocals just drive me insane. I'm just kind of
little odd.
Shut up, please shut up, so I can listen to everything else and enjoy this. It's hard. So
no, and it's not easy to we're looking at these great artists, these great bands, and we're trying to pick them apart and find things that maybe don't meet whatever preconceived standard that we think a prog epic should have. It's erroneous, and we're just having a good time with this and trying to make sure that we don't take any of this too seriously. It's all great. First of all, it's prog rock. Of course, it's great, Pete.
All fantastic, right? So
that's what we do over there.
So for everybody watching, if you're well versed in this style of music, we're very curious to see what you consider the 10 must-hear epics are, and then maybe some of the 10 that you're like, maybe not so good, right? Or maybe just not a good place to start, because there's so much to choose from. I'm sure Scott will attest to this as well. There are so many like underground, unknown bands who that's all they do is they do epic length stuff. I get CDs all the time from young bands, and they're like, okay, there's only 3 songs on here at 18 minutes long, 12 minutes long. It's just what they do, because that's what the genre is like famous for. So and not all of it works, but
no,
hey, give them all credit for trying it, right?
Exactly. And that's true. The whole prog spirit is that you just got to try to do something new, and you push the envelope, and it's not going to hit everybody the same way, but opinions are just what they are. And that's our stock and trade, man. We just sit around and talk about stuff, talk about music, and people like our videos. It's crazy, Pete.
I guess so, right?
Explain that one.
I wonder sometimes why, but yeah, as long as people are entertained, but that's the important thing. So, Scott, you want to plug your channel and what things you've got happening over there on the Prog Corner?
We got some exciting stuff happening on the Prog Corner. I think I'm going to be having Andy Tillison from The Tangent on, and we're going to be talking about Bo Hansen, the great 70s Swedish artist, kind of similar to Mike Oldfield. He's a big fan. I'm a big fan. So we're going to be talking about that. And then next week, this is going to take me a minute. I'm going to be ranking the albums of Chicago. Yeah.
How many? Are you doing like a top 10? What do you like?
I'm doing them all. Doing them all.
That's a lot of albums.
Yeah, but you see, thankfully they number all of them. So they don't have 38 albums out. It's actually, I think, like 26 studio albums. Take out the greatest hits and the Christmas albums. Maybe we're down to like 23. I can handle it.
It's a lot of shit in there.
Yeah. And then we got, I haven't reviewed the new Glass Hammer album, so I'll probably be taking a look at that next week, and whatever else I feel like doing. Yeah, it's a good one, man.
I like it. Did you hear the new District 97 yet?
Yeah. I just heard that for the first time. Sounding good. We love Leslie. Great band.
Yeah, she's a really good singer. It's a good album. It's a little odd, but then again, most of their albums are a little odd, right? So
yeah, that's what we like about them. They're actually kind of unpredictable.
Yeah.
Just when you think you've got District 97 figured out, like Bent Knee. Just when you think you got Bent Knee figured out now, you don't have them figured out. They throw you a curveball, and I love bands like that.
Cool. Sounds good. So everybody head on over to the Prog Corner and check out what Scott's going on.
Yes.
What we got here, let's see. Tomorrow, of course, is Thursday, so it's Monsters Den night. So, or one night every other week where we talk about horror and monster movies. So that's coming up. We got Martin Popoff, of course, Friday morning at the Funhouse, and then on Sunday it's Ranking the Albums Day, and I will be ranking, excuse me, the 4-album catalog of the Gervitz Brothers band 3-Man Army. So that's Paul and Adrian Gervitz, very cool hard rock kind of proggy band called 3-Man Army. That's the band they had prior to joining forces with Ginger Baker for the Baker Gervitz Army band. So all that coming up here on the channel. So thanks everybody for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell to get alert of all of our content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Have a good rest of the week, everybody. We'll see you real soon. For Scott Lade at the Prog Corner, I am Pete Pardo. Take care, everybody. Let us know your favorite epics and your least favorites down in the comments below. Bye-bye.